Episode 278. Brother in the top left, welcome. It's time. We've got roster moves. Yiska's here. He is a pirate. He told me in confidence that he would order an eye patch to become the emperor of the sea, of the Overwatch sea. Something about One Piece. I've never seen it. Whatever.
Sea of Thieves.
Sea of Thieves.
Real. It's real. The One Piece is real.
Apparently, so I've been told. We've got news. We've got big returns. We've got some rebrands. We've got some crazy moves. So it's high time we as the YouTubers say, crack straight into it. But Kenobi, how are things? How are you?
They're good. Good. Just vibing. It's off season right now, so there's not a lot happening in terms of like contenders or anything. Overwatch League as well. Been following up with the news. Very happy that Ray is coming back. It is an even season, so makes sense.
Even season Ray,
based on how it's been going so far. So yeah, excited to see what he's going to be able to do with the Spark. I'm going to be sitting here just constantly wanting to be in a cryo freezer so that I can go to the end of February and see what their roster is actually going to be like. So
hurry and skip to the end.
Yeah, I just need to skip all the cutscenes and I want to get right to the action and figure out what that team is going to be. Because I have a very love-hate relationship with that team.
But now it's got to be a little bit more loving.
Now, after what they did, in the season, and then now coming in here, bringing in Ray. I trust Ray pretty much with anything that he's going to do. So, I think that it's going to be pretty awesome for the Spark to have Ray heading them up. And based on what the rest of the roster looked like, they're probably going to be one of the best teams in Overwatch League.
Probably. I mean, there's certainly some arguments to have that. Yiska, are you still hunting the showdown, or what's new in Bavaria?
Just first week of work again. Got a bunch of stuff done like this year. I'm currently trying to, record a couple more interviews, just put out regular content, that type of stuff. In terms of gaming, I picked up Risk of Rain 2, looking into that right now. I don't know, like still a bunch of Overwatch, even though I will say, noticeably, I just unlocked Ramatra, which is a little concerning in terms of how deep we are in the...
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty... We're halfway, aren't we?
Yeah. And keep in
By
mind...
comparison, I have the Zeus skin already, so...
Jesus.
Okay, that's... Yeah.
Good lord.
Yeah, so...
it was double XP weekend, so,
True, yeah. Eric says he's BP 140.
Good lord.
Insane.
I'm like barely BP 30. I'm just like convinced that I'll just never own a new hero again, and I'm kind of okay with it.
Did you buy the last battle pass? Do you have even Kiriko unlocked?
You don't have Kiriko either?
No, I have Kiriko. I think you got Kiriko.
You got it if you bought like the...
But you don't have Ramatra.
I do not have Ramatra.
I think
you're not
45. I think 45 should probably be ticked down to 40. I think if you're
maybe
I mean Blizzard has the numbers, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean the thing about it is like with games like that, it's like when I look at this compared to like Valorant, it's like pretty similar in terms of like the time that it takes to because unlocking a new hero in Valorant or a new agent is pretty hard. Time consuming. Not hard, but it's time consuming.
Yeah, it's definitely time consuming. It's been a minute though, so it's hard.
Getting to like 5 on the contract, I think, is how it works.
Yeah,
and it's pretty similar battle pass wise, and there's challenges that can always help you out.
For sure.
But yeah, Vermatra's big fun and competitive. The buffs were great. I think they need to nerf his ult a little bit again. The charge rate of it, because he farms it way too fast.
True. So, but before we get into our roster bonanza, we have to thank, some of you guys who make this show possible. So we want to thank our patron producers for episode 278, that being Avril Vista Bebe, Battle Crab, Refund Bean, Bronze Babu How, Picasso, Chris R34444, Kasha67, Nolshin, Porkchop Sammy, Rex Zane, Stuck in Bronze, and our YouTube members, Ice Jello, William Jess, Fishman, Fire Element 6, AK Chris-R, Brother Stuck in Bronze Samuel, Espaza, Adam L, and Sagi Fumi. It's at the top of the show. We already kind of touched on it. Ray to Spark. Boy, howdy. That's a move.
Yeah. And I will say, like, if the other stuff that's rumored is also true, that's probably like the title contender at the moment from APAC.
I mean, at least at APAC, right?
It's APAC. I mean, if they don't win APAC with the rumored roster, then I think the team is eternally cursed. Because Spark to me has always been a team that's like, whenever you look at them, it's like, yeah, this team on paper is so sick. Last season, even like before, we have to remember they got into the playoffs going like what 2-13 in their last like 15 games or something. Like they had a terrible end of the like the regular season. It's like some really bad record. And it's always been with that team. It's like, oh man, look at these players. They have such good players. The roster's stacked, and then they just never figure it out. I think I'm gonna say they got pretty lucky with the end of season meta because of the fact that like it was Winston, it was Sojourn, and they had Shy.
Yeah.
Basically, I mean, basically willed them into that 4th place spot. The thing about it is that when we look at like that playoff, they almost lost to Toronto. Like, so they easily could have just gone 9th, 12th if we're in a different timeline. But now with like having Ray here, I think that he has never shown, at least to me, that he's like that there's anything that can really get in the way of like his team being successful. Even when like that Chengdu season 4 like roster wasn't like the greatest roster on paper. It was like Leave obviously he was the MVP and you had Gaga, but I think like the way that Ray operates is like using the pieces around him, like his ability to understand like, you know, what support am I going to play with Jinmu? Like, because they had the quadruple support line where it was like 2 main supports, 2 flex supports. His ability to interchange those pieces, I think, is really important. And if Spark are going to have a big roster, having someone like Ray to be able to like accommodate that is going to be good, because one of the things that Spark has always struggled with is having these big rosters and then just letting players die. Like Coldest and Mika, for instance, came out of Chinese contenders being like probably the best support duo they had, and they never really got to play because, to be fair, they were playing behind, you know, I think it was IDK and Bebe was the flex support at that time. I don't remember entirely, but like they've had a tendency on Spark like buy these like huge rosters and then not use the pieces like effectively. Right, that's always been the problem. It feels like with that roster whenever it's been built. Like Liga, for instance, didn't. I think Liga's a bit of a different situation, but there have been a lot of times where it's like they buy players and like they kind of just sit on them for a bit and don't really get the most out of them. I think Pineapple, for instance, the last season was probably one of those where it's like Pineapple got signed for what really? I guess for depth, for instance, but
you got insurance policies. That's pretty much it. Like they're here to play like a couple heroes that, if you need them to, you can. But there again, it's so hard to start over some of those mainstays. Yeah. And with the kind of name recognition that Ray can pull from like Chinese players, it's Spark should be title chasers pretty through and through. It would be shocking, to say the least, if Spark don't just come out of this offseason looking like an absolute super team, and possibly just running away with APAC. It's a real possibility. Yiska, what's your favorite color and your favorite animal?
Teal and
You know, you just try to like set somebody up for like, give her just like softball
and they just can't take it.
Whiffs it.
I don't know, like Bea maybe.
No, I agree. I too hate llamas in red pajamas. But what do you think about the Spark? You think the Spark could get? What do you think they might get without leaking?
Right. I mean, this is not one that I know, but I think they have some pre-existing, pretty solid pieces, of course. If they actually like, there have been some rumors, or I think Halo reported that Leaf is going there. I think. Could be wrong. Who said it? I'm not sure. If that's happening, dude, Shine Leaf is
that's already
the best.
Yeah, it's
that's that you could
wrap it up. for APAC. Like that's.
Yeah.
I mean, I
there's
want
only
to see a
so
little
many.
bit more there, but yeah, that's a fucking great start.
There's only so many DPS lanes that you could build. I think like an MN3 and Zest that like have a little bit less green is also scary for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Seoul could cook something up if they get profit back, which I don't know. But who's the second guy then? Right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
even if Fitz was to come back or whatever, I don't know like what the deal there would be, but maybe Seoul is also just running it with their old Genji lineup. I mean, there's tons of things that could happen there. So
Top Dragon, baby, let's go.
Top Dragon, yeah. I mean, Top Dragon has to go somewhere. I think he's good enough to definitely be locked in.
For sure.
So we'll see how things move. But like, if that Spark Ross, it's just very hard to imagine what kind of players are still there. Like, Gladiators has yet to announce. Theoretically, like other top teams could still get one. Like even in the flex support market, you have to assume that Shock is probably in the market for one more. Like there's only so many players that other APAC teams could get where they could be competitive with the Spark roster that is leaked.
Mm-hmm.
And it's getting harder at this point. And whatever reservations you had prior because of staff, also to me, I alleviated just based on Ray's, history and accolades.
Yeah, when you look at, where the Overwatch League's at, I can't imagine here. I can't imagine that like the salary difference is all that crazy, but it's playing for somebody or playing for a system that has been proven to work. And I think every time Ray's been in the league, it tends to be, pretty solid, if not, cause for playoff upset potential. And
real talk, salary not that important anymore to a lot of the guys. There are definitely some guys that are still like, and as they should, chasing after the bag. I think like someone like Lip should get top dollar. Someone like Pelican wants top dollar. That's fine. That's okay. But I have a gut feeling that, for instance, the roster that Boston was assembled there. We'll see how it buffs out in the eventual budget tier list. I could see once again that pre-cooked up a pretty cost-effective roster there. And like if you talk to players, salary is not top kicker. Top kicker is like
not anymore.
Not having to deal with all kinds of like annoying stuff, like getting your food, like getting the culture figured out, getting like travel to be easy, living outside, just to be able to perform as a professional. That's the stuff also that players now are looking towards. And I think that, I think also who they play with. So whatever holes there are in Spark, I think like based just on whoever who else they got, that's already like the starting five are already pretty sick, I think. And then you just gotta like get one or the other to fill a couple of holes.
Yeah. I mean, even like the two additions, which we will get to, like I don't want to completely jump ahead to Boston because they've also, mildly recently, tried to fill out the rest of the roster. But yeah, there's a ton of like really, potent talent out there that, can be, Boston could end up looking super team-esque. But for Kenobi, question to you when it comes to the Spark, is there like anybody throughout, like not necessarily contenders, but like is there like a Chinese player that you kind of hope like finds a home within this like Spark Chinese Overwatch super team? Is there like somebody like an Eileen that you're like, he'd be a great like third man, or like somebody that maybe hasn't gotten a shot or something?
I think the thing about it is, if you're trying to make a Chinese super team right now, the only two people I would take out of out of Chinese contenders are Eileen and Liga. I think the contenders talent right now from China should not, unless like Ray is really feeling someone like as like being like a player that they would like. I think it would be a mistake for them to go and get someone from contenders at this current moment. That's not Eileen or Liga and doesn't because I think that if you're trying to make a super team, you win now, right? You want to win now. And there are like, it's not to say that there aren't talented players in Chinese contenders. You know, C-Wave, I think, played very well last year. X-Ray is someone who I think probably deserves a shot. But really, those are players who like should go to Chengdu or should go to the if LA Valiant end up into another Chinese team, go there, right? Like, if you are building a super team, you want to win now. And right now, there are way too many Overwatch League talent that should be on that team of the Spark. Like, if my ideal roster would be like, obviously it's like Gusha, Shy, Leave. I would have wanted Super Rich on that team, but I think I would imagine since Ray is there, probably going to be Xerneas or Nisha. And then I think Monk would probably be the fifth one in there. And then
do you think there's a way that do you think there's any like weird blood between them from like what happened like, between him and Xerneas and like the playoff situation where homie's like reading manga and doesn't want to practice?
I have no idea. I mean, I think them getting rid of Super Rich is a mistake. Like I think Super Rich should have stayed. I think Super Rich is the best main support overall from Chinese as like a Chinese player. I think he's the best one. Yes, I think Yveltal is and Xerneas rather is like the one who's more known, especially because of the Mercy part of it. But
hold up,
Super Rich is like the best overall.
How are we pronouncing that guy now? I'm losing my German mind. Like, is it Xerneas?
It's Xerneas. I guess Xerneas. I don't know. It's a Pokemon. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever.
I'll ask.
We all know who. Yeah,
I'll ask Necro.
We all know who we're talking about.
But like, I think that yes, there may be like that little bit of bad blood, but also like Ray, I think is someone who would probably be like, yeah, if I need you, like I'll take you. I mean, he also really likes Nisha. I mean, he's the reason Nisha's in the league is because of Ray. So that's definitely a possibility. I'm not the biggest fan of Nisha. Like, I think he's far and away the third best main support that's Chinese coming out. Like, I think if like Super Rich is the best one, and I think he proved it actually last year. Then I think Xerneas, and then I think Nisha. I think that's how I would rate the main supports that are currently in the league for China. And I think that like because if we were just like hands off the table, like no former synergies or no anything like that, I think the best team would have been Good Leave, Super Rich, Monk. I think that's the best five you could get in Chinese, like as a Chinese super team.
I think that's a little bit of a hot take. No, Joe? Like, is Xerneas not?
I mean, I think like for me, I'd flip him personally.
So the thing I would ask about that, I would push back on that and say like, Yveltal or Xerneas, Mercy is better. I think Mercy is obviously the thing, but like, he can't touch Super Rich's Lucio. He can't touch his Brig. Bap would probably be like an even, I would say. Like, I think Super Rich is like, to me, like significantly better than him on most of the heroes that aren't Mercy. Maybe not significantly, but I think I would take like as an overall main support player based on the way that.
I definitely don't agree on Lucio. I would give you Brig. I think
Yveltal's Lucio is a lot to do with like. I think especially last year, like Yveltal's Lucio was like, or Xerneas' Lucio was like, it's going to be hard for me to break that down. It was fine. I think they're both like fine. I prefer myself, and I know there's obviously the memes about, you know, super poor, whatever. Like, the Lucio wasn't great sometimes, but from what I've seen overall from the history of like watching Super Rich from like his inception on like LGD to now, the Lucio has always been like his good pick, probably his best hero, except for now when it's like grown into being, I think, Brig, because when he was playing last year, it was one of the best Brigs during midseason.
I would agree with that.
So and that's one thing that like Yveltal doesn't have. Yveltal has the Mercy and the Lucio, and then after that you start to like find some like is the BAP good enough? Is the Brig good enough? Right? Where on the other side for Super Rich, I trust his. I don't know. He can't play Mercy as well as Xerneas can. I think you can maybe argue that Xerneas's one of the best Mercies to ever touch the game, especially when they were on Chengdu and how unbelievable they were at that hero. Not just from like a perspective of just like being the healer and like getting Jinmu out, but Xerneas would Glock people on Mercy just like consistently in Valk, and it was something that no one else could really do. But I think that like I wouldn't be upset if someone would tell me like, hey, like we're gonna take Yveltal over Super Rich, especially in like a system that he's already like familiar with. You know, he's been on Team China. He's probably very familiar with all the guys that are on that team. Like, totally fine in that regard. I think just like as an overall quantity though, if you're just plugging and playing on paper, I think Super Rich is a little bit better in that regard as like a main support player because he has a little bit more breadth of.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of where I don't think it's like a crazy take to like argue like 1A, 1B, 1-2, like however you want to put it. Like I'm here for, you know, differing eye tests. I don't think it's that crazy. I think either or is like definitely kind of an embarrassment of riches in some ways. You know,
they could have just done both of them. Why not? Fuck
I mean, I mean, Spark got that money. Spark, you know, got that dog in him. They might, but
I want them to sign Dia though. That'd be cool. I want them to.
Like, does he play though?
No,
play with some Shy on the team.
I think what they're gonna do is I think they need like a gadget player as the third because obviously they're like you wouldn't want to ever be in a situation to not have Shy and Leave, and I don't really think there would ever be a position. Like, Leave can play anything. We've seen that before. Yep. Shy, absolute nuts on whatever he's on, it feels like, as well, in terms of, like, being on hit scans. So, I think the rumor is that, like, Jinmu would also go. Which makes a lot of sense. Which I think makes sense, because you need, like, the funny haha hero, because, like, if Pharah ever does become meta, you have... If Pharah ever does become meta, you have one of the best Pharahs to ever play Overwatch on your team.
I'm gonna do you one better. I'm gonna go like 3D underwater extreme chess boxing on you. You know, God forbid there's a Doom meta.
And then you just
gosh, now you got a Doom player. You know what I mean? Like he's a weird haha funny Chinese Overwatch.
I mean,
player.
Leaf could play Doom too. Like, I mean,
definitely 100%. You've got you know quite a bit of flexibility. So it's like. I feel like for me at least, it's like Gusha, Liga, and this is if Spark like really got, you know, they've got a blank check and they're just trying to like fill out.
I think they could.
They could.
I think they could get away with it because of the fact that you have three. If you were to get 3 DPS, I think they could get away with solo tank Gusha because I think you could get to a point where you could put Shy or Leave on the tank. Like if it's like a Zarya meta, for instance, were that ever to come back?
Probably, yeah.
I think it's like a thing, like, but if you were just like to sacrifice one or the other, if it was like we either need the third DPS or we need the second tank, I would probably pick the third DPS in that regard, just because that would give you flexibility to move any of those players over to the tank.
I think normally I would agree. I think with this one in particular, I'd probably want both because it's like who we have at DPS and like who we have at tank, where it's like Gush is just like a traditional main tank player, and that's fine. Like Esball is okay, whatever. But when you have like Leave Shy, like they should pretty much just cover.
Yeah, they should probably.
So if you, and I think we'll probably end up having like a Diva or a Sigma, or you know, God forbid, Ramatra is a little bit more, you know, flex tank.
Yeah, that's fair.
Played. I think having somebody.
Right. Yeah, you're right. It's probably better to have the second tank.
Yeah,
it'd just be interesting to see like what they would do is like if it's a Zarya meta, then it's like, oh, do we put like any?
It's possible. You definitely could. That I feel like to me like stresses too much on some of those DPS picks, and I wonder if like they all like across the board, a lot of those levels come down for like some of these hyperflexes where it's just like. We know Leave can do whatever, but like if you keep adding,
do we want him
like his, you know, repertoire? Does that kind of like hinder some of the rest of them? I don't know. The man can pretty much do no wrong in my eyes. Even the last year, it was Chengdu as a team was kind of
that wasn't
stinky, haha, poo poo. But Spark again, like
break the curse. It needs to happen now. Like if it's not now, it's never.
Is it fair to even say that they are cursed, or it was just last year? Like.
I mean, I think they got super lucky last year that they were. Yeah. I think they got super lucky to even get to the playoff. Actually, like we have to remember that. I think I genuinely think if Guangzhou beats Chengdu and doesn't get reverse swept, Guangzhou probably goes to the playoffs.
Base.
Because what was happening there was it was Guangzhou was dunking on fucking, what was it, Daisy I think was playing tank, and then they were just like, it was 2-0. They bring in Gaga goes on Winston, fucking rolls the entirety of the series by himself. Picky can't really like do anything, and they like miracle map 5 reverse sweep that. And then they go into the next match and they play on Winston, one of the worst that could possibly happen, because I think if Guangzhou go into that game, they're not thinking about playing Winston. 100% no. And then Spark probably don't play Winston and they just do, or they Sigma mirror or whatever, and they opt in to play whatever, and then they lose. I think that, I genuinely think that would have been the way of things if Guangzhou had won that series against Chengdu, and Chengdu didn't bring the Winston meta to like prolificness during that like 2 series.
Yeah, asking for the mirror is kind of a, you're kind of just it's not the smartest thing I've ever heard.
I mean, Gaga's a good Winston too. I don't like it. I mean, he showed it too against, but it's like
sure, but
you're facing the Winston like demigod, right? I can't say god because Fearless kind of holds that.
Sure, that's fair. Yeah, I don't know if I want to, I don't know if I'm asking for that smoke, but we'll see. Yiska, any final thoughts before we take it to the northeast?
Llama red pajama.
Beautiful. I like it. So we mentioned Boston before. If you haven't heard, let me quickly run down. Yeah, where have you been? Apparently, does anybody understand those memes on Reddit where everybody's like, the Boston Uprising has signed him, and it's just like, I don't get it. I do not understand. Maybe you can leave.
Is it not like this X is in this picture type stuff?
It's like it's not,
the whole Boston roster is in this picture. I don't get it.
Yeah,
I don't get it at all.
Yeah, I don't get like why everybody thought it was like
just a meme. Like one guy just had a weird framing, and then everyone riffed on it, and then
love Reddit.
And then
all right.
I mean, they're bored.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely. Yes. Shout out to the mods over there who had to deal with all that.
True. There's a whole lot of fluff posts when I got back. So, if you haven't heard of the Boston roster thus far, I think 2 shows ago we talked about it. At that point, we had Birdring, Striker, Decay, Smurf, Lee Jagon, Izzyaki. That was like the initial 5. We were very glowing about that. Kenobi, what was your kind of take on the first 5? Pretty good, yeah.
Pretty good. Like I looked at it and I was like, okay, this is a fucking team. Like,
right.
Big shout out to Pre. I think deserves a lot of credit. I think the way that they left Washington, obviously a lot of stuff was there about their tenure there and all that. But I think coming over to Boston now, building this roster, whatever persona pack that he has with Decay, keep it going. It's working out great for you. Like, I think that this roster from just those 5, I think was like immediately I was like, perk up your ears and you're like, okay, like this team isn't fucking around, which is weird to say about Boston because Boston has not necessarily been at the pinnacle of success recently. They've had some,
have they ever?
Yeah, we had stage 1, or stage 2.
Season 1.
Season 1, stage 1, stage 2, where they went like undefeated.
Yeah, right? Like it's been like upwards. It's
been a bit, but this team, and then now bringing Kalios and Twilight, I think like should realistically, if everything works out with the team dynamic, with everything there, I think like top 3 is probably where this team is shooting. Like this team should be really good. I think that there's not really like a meta that I can think of that they don't cover pretty well with the players that they have. Smurf is one of the best tanks to ever play this game. Decay, obviously, we know a lot about him. Twilight, the GOAT, the many I think you've called before. Like this team is stacked to the brim with talent, and it's about seeing if that talent will mesh together. Because one of the things about Washington was like we always talked about how it's like what was it, the meme that we used, the talent was there last season, like that was like the meme.
I mean, they definitely had the talent. Yeah, I don't know if the talent had them.
So it's like
Joe, you realize that a literal Lord bed relies on that tick, right? You realize that Vancouver is now that former Boston lineup, and you need them to be top 7, my guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, so
I'll unpack that later. Continue, Kenobi.
yeah, I think. Well, I want to talk about the Lord bet too because I think
We will.
you might be in trouble.
Nah.
But yeah, this team, I think is all about finding the right secret sauce for them to like put all those pieces together. Because I think when you look at it on paper, it does feel very Spark-esque, where it's like these players are all really good.
Sure.
Now you just got to get them to play together, play well together. I think that they should realistically, like I said, be top 3. I think is where they're probably shooting for with a roster like this. And I think Pre does deserve because I mean even if it was just those 5 players and then like one extra, like I think that's good. But the fact that they got Kalios and Twilight to like cover some more bases, like that's even better for them. So I think that they deserve.
They're checking all the luxury boxes.
Yeah, I think they deserve a lot of credit. They deserve a lot of credit for making this team.
I'd say so.
You know which box they aren't checking? Youth.
The rookie box.
Yeah.
That'd be my only.
Now,
I think it's tough to nitpick.
Old man strength, baby. Old man strength.
There is something there, yeah.
The thing is here, I think there are good arguments to say that the pastures of contenders have been grazed to a large degree. And we gotta, before we can reap again, we just need to sow. And it's like currently I feel like, okay, of course got always the O2 boys. That's going to be, but if Shock remains having dips on those guys, then you always can only take the seconds. And I think also like I think this might be reasonably like the season. I mean, last season rookies were pretty important. I think this season they will be less important just by virtue of there being less.
Sure.
But
I think it was like 60 last year.
There was a ridiculous amount, and they
did like
did
math
pretty well.
on it. I remember it was a lot.
Yeah,
quite a bit.
Yeah, and there will be less this year. But yeah, like that's the one thing that I'm a little concerned about, and then also just. Yes, there's a ton of. I think that might be the roster with the most trophies ever.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I would definitely point out is there's exactly 2 members on this 8-man team that don't have connections to an Overwatch League championship, which is bonkers to think about.
It's bonkers, and at the same time, I'm a little concerned for how sated they are. Right, so.
Okay, no, I get that energy. I think my only rebuttal to that
by sated you mean like they don't like how
like
do you
how
mean
hungry are they really?
How hungry are they? Okay, then.
Yeah, that would be like I think that's what he means, and I think at least for Smurf, I feel like you can answer that question based on like the old like Soul Philly content that they put out, where he's like, I want to keep going, We've talked about that quite a bit on the show, where it's like. Both through his words and his actions, again, like Smurf, shared time. This wasn't like he was given the keys to the city and got to, run amok and got to, kind of be the spearhead for the Shock in some of those championships. Sometimes he was, sometimes he wasn't, right? And it seemed like he was okay with that. Nothing about him seemed to dip. Like he's been a consummate professional through and through. The rest of them I can't necessarily speak on, but obviously, Kenobi kind of alluded to it. Kalios and Twilight also joining the ranks, giving them the trifecta of luxury where you have 3 DPS, you have the extra supports, and then you have a flex tank to back up Smurf, who probably won't even need it. Kenobi, when we were talking about the Spark, you talked about a team who needs to win now, right? Like if it almost isn't in a way to kind of define maybe a super team. Do you kind of still align or resonate with that definition? And do you think that per that is Boston kind of a super team in a way? Like this is a team that should be winning.
Yeah, I think so. I think you can classify this is a roster. I mean, especially when we're talking about like the lack of rookies and stuff. Like this is a win now team. Like this is very much a team that's like if they don't perform. I was gonna say if they don't win a stage, I think it's a failure. I wouldn't go that far necessarily.
Sure, yeah.
A championship is like probably the like Overwatch League championship. I'll just I don't know the out of like anything when it comes to like Overwatch League, but like if we're basing it off like previous finals with like mid-season, this team is like probably gonna win a tourney. Like I would think that that's probably going to be where the cap is. Can they win Overwatch League? Obviously, you know, talent's there, right? Well, I think when you have people like Smurf, like Decay, without as much pedigree as this roster has, I think that is something that we do have to like keep in, you know, we do have to keep in mind is that this team is like used to winning championships. And I don't know about like how in sports, it's like something that gets thrown around a lot where it's like, yo, no, do you have that championship pedigree, right? Where you have you been in like I think this has happened to the Celtics last year in basketball where it's like, that team was just so green. Yes, they were very good, but like they were playing Golden State, who had won the championship 3 times, right? Like, so this team, like going into the playoffs, like has so much tournament experience. And again, I'm a little bit newer overall to like esports, but I don't know if that like is something that in esports works as like a talking point. Because it doesn't, I think in traditional sports, it definitely does.
I would say so.
And like here, if that is something that you can rely on, then this team is like, has that in the bag in spades. Yiska T0r0ng, like it's the team that has the most trophies out of any team that's been assembled so far. So if we talk about just the pedigree of the roster and their championship capabilities, like if they find that one right meta where it's like Decay pops, Smurf pops, you know, you have Twilight can be on Honor or something like that, right? Where you just get all the pieces together. Kind of like Spark had at the end of last season. Yeah, you can definitely win a lot of tournaments and potentially win the Overwatch League championship with the roster you have here.
Yiska?
Yeah.
You seem hesitant.
What are the reservations that are?
Yeah,
because I can hear it in your voice.
Why are we pulling punches with?
Look, I'll say it's interesting. Like the keynote that I sometimes get from others is like, and I'm not sure if there's envy or in that particular case it wouldn't be, but it's like some folks that I respect the opinion of have reservations in terms of like how this has been assembled, right?
Okay.
And think like this is more PR than substance.
So you think it's a retirement home?
I mean, that's not what I'm necessarily saying, but I see those reservations, right? Like,
okay. Yeah, I think I can get it. Can I try to speculate on what some of those are?
Right. Go on.
So before Joe, when you're saying like it's a PR move, do you mean like as in they're signing just big names for the sake of the signing of the big names and not really like putting the team in a cohesive like position to win?
Cohesive is not the thing, right? Like it's not about cohesion. Everything here sort of folds together, but there's the tiltability of this roster theoretically.
Okay. I just want to make.
There's
Sorry,
like,
Joe.
yeah,
you're fine.
There's like there's this a certain question, like if those guys and those egos and those accolades can come together and pull in the same direction, right?
Sure.
And then you have the questions of if you have the right motivators in place to do that, right? And like to me, so basically, like to me, it goes like the community thinks this is a great roster. I tend to think that it probably will be top 3, top 4 in NA.
Probably.
And then I have some people I respect the opinion of go like, this is like the roster that's like the horny like trust fund kid builds, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And if I was to like, I would look and blah. And then I feel like on the other end, if this actually was economically built, then this is still a success because of just like the fan favoritism and whatnot that has been generated here on top of that. Sure. So it's like a double victory, especially if the competitive success is here. I can tell you, I did a GM panel that's about to be released, or maybe by the time you're listening to this, it has been. And in it, Prig says like one of their goals was to win this year. And
It looks like it.
I think,
this
I think in my mind that this is a team in the second tier of probability of winning the league. Because to me, especially if they get one more good flex support player, it's shock, and then there's a tier break.
How many flex supports do you need on this team?
They just have two supports.
Support?
They just have 2 supports. There's no Violet yet.
They have Izzyaki.
Oh, you mean shock?
Oh,
you mean
Shock.
shock. You mean
Yes.
shock.
I get you.
Yeah.
I get you. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
I was like, Boston does not need another
No.
flex support.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah, you're right.
Am I excelling this bitch? What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, shock. I agree in the sense that like shock seems to be like the best. I mean, with what they've signed so far, and that's just 5 players. I mean, it looks like a roster that it wants to get the third. I mean, he's saying in proper just is fucking insane.
Oh, can I say this one thing? The argument that has been put forth to me is about this is not going to go over well with, I think, a lot of the viewership crowd, but Boston has no hard carry. They don't have a lip. They do not have a Kevster. They do not have a proper.
You don't think Decay's that guy anymore? You don't think?
No.
It's
or
tough.
People don't think he is.
I mean, I will agree that like Decay. Unfortunately, I mean, there are still flashes for Decay. I think the thing about it is consistency for him, because it's like it never felt like proper really. And people will point to maybe like the Toronto land where he had the one pretty like not great grand final, right, where he was quiet, but for the most part, proper was the best player in the world for the majority of the time that we had last season, right? If not the entire.
Yeah,
I'd say.
But Decay, like, there were still points last season where like Decay would come out and just will Washington to victory. So like I
agree. I agree to a large degree. But I also noted I still do think that there is something in Decay. We still keep in mind, I understand what you mean, but at the same time, you're now competing against Atlanta with Lip. Yes. That's a hard carry.
Yeah.
You're now competing.
I would agree.
Also, Vigilante, in my opinion, also a hard carry player. You're now competing against, proper with a team that has no holds, presumably, especially if they were to get John Bin and another flex support there, right? Mm-hmm. And I can tell you, they're in the market for a flex support. They right, like they're looking. So all of this, and then I mean, Prophet is still out there in terms of like, okay. Honestly, even then, I'm not sure if Prophet is that guy anymore. Like in my mind, there's like an Elite 5 or something.
Yes.
Yeah. I would agree.
Like
I would agree with that.
If look,
which is what, like
Kev, Lip, Proper, Hanbin.
Yeah.
And
Shy.
then Shy, and then like if you get a lucky streak of metas, especially in playoffs, then that guy can also be fearless.
Yeah.
Right? Like I think in certain metas it could be a couple of more players. I don't hate Decay for a meta. Is there anyone else that's just like truly transcendentally elite? I'm not sure.
Jinmu and Farah.
Yeah, like maybe Pelican can sometimes be that, but I'm not like he didn't shine like that, like he did in season 4 and season 5. So like I think we're now like Overwatch 2 seemed to be like the star player. It's very star player heavy.
Yeah, I would say then probably it's like it's not that I would say that it's not that they don't have a hard carry, because I feel like the hard carry is going to be Decay. Maybe it's going to be Smurf, actually, I think, too. Is like
or
a
it's
possibility.
Birdring. If Birdring
Or
prime
Birdring. Yeah,
Birdring,
I don't know.
there's
Yeah,
a
if
lot
it's
of
prime Birdring, then-
chances, but there's also a possibility that nobody's S tier and you're just getting propped.
I think it's more that they don't have a consistent yet. Like they're obviously, I
Right.
think if Decay like just goes back to being Decay or Birdring goes back to being Prime Birdring, et cetera, I think it's definitely possible that they like have that like hard carry player. But I think I do agree with you that like even if like can Prime Birdring beat Proper, right? Is that like that's the conversation that we have to like, start having at this point, and it feels like it's not really. I mean, even Lip, I'm like still just, I would be like worried about that.
The entire discussion just feels like a definition that like rotate, like it's you're trying to describe somebody who's actively and consistently going to take over games like with most of the cast that they're given, right? I think you can leverage the statement that Boston does not have a hard carry player. They have players that can hard carry, but nobody on this team is a hard carry. I think I would agree with that. But in that same way, I don't think there are many teams in the Overwatch League that have hard carry players at that point, right? I agree with you that there probably are like a very, very short list of like 5 players who can consistently will teams across the board with like most of the cast that they're asked to play. And the rest of them, like your Fearlesses, like your, who else is like Pelican to some degree. I kind of like that one where it's like, okay, if you give him like Echo or Genji, yeah, he probably cooks, but like, is he gonna do that on Sombra or Tracer or Ashe? No, right? Like Leave in some degrees. I think he could be. I think he can return. I think he was, but I don't know if I want to give him that much anymore.
That's the thing, yeah.
It's tough, and I don't think it means what people like take it as when they hear like, oh, Boston doesn't have a hard carry player. It's like it depends on what we're talking about when we talk about hard carry, where it's like, yes, Decay can take over games, but like
that's the thing. Like that's the hard thing because it's like oh, sorry, Yiska, go ahead.
No, like you gotta compare it to everyone else now. Like your old baseline doesn't count anymore. It's not just the Proper show anymore. Dude, if we're getting a ball meta and this team actually gets Junbin, that's a hard carry meta. Like that's a gap. That's a gappity gap. Who else? Who else is going to match this kid on ball? Nobody's going to match that kid on ball.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, okay. And then like the 4 other cruise ship
there's no one else.
Like,
just in a 1v1 he could, but Chengdu not looking so hot.
Yeah, Chengdu Spark, Chengdu Shock for fucking mid-season madness. Let's get it.
Right, like
grand finals.
Proper on basically everything. Heesang is no slouch, my guys. Finn is crazy. Like Max is crazy. Like there's not only is Proper the guy in 80% of all matters, they also have a guy with about the same probabilities as those guys we hope Boston to perform, right? So they have the one superstar unlocked that is the guy that is unlike any other guy and could be the best ever. And then they also have the other guys that look to be about the same level of everyone else in this. Like, again, Shock's the team to beat for me.
Definitely. I mean, it's hard for them not to be the team to beat. And with those designations, it does feel like Boston is more of like, and this is going to sound kind of slandery when you look at, only 2 of these players not having like a world title. They're a good team. Like all across the board, like a solid A class in every position. But much like the rest of the league, they're lacking in like staying power in some degree. If the goal is to actually win, that's tough to do. That's tough to compete with the Lips, the Propers. That's again, like what you're saying. That's who you're really aiming at. And it's like, am I willing to place a bet on Birdring in a gap, coming off a gap year? Is that really who I want to like go head to head?
You know who they remind me of? They remind me of England from the World Cup. They're a team that's like very good in terms of like the star power potential that they have. But like when you get to like playing like Mbappe, when you get to playing like Messi, like it's a completely different story, right? When you're playing against a team that like has all those pieces and like the pieces that are like world class in terms of just and even like back a little bit, right? Because France like is very much like Mbappe like heavy, who has like that hard carry, but the rest of the players around them are still like very good, right? It's about like kind of like you can say whatever you want about like Harry Kane being one of the best, you know, Rashford and all this, and like being very good and having those moments, but when you're against the best in the world, that's when you really have to step it up. And England didn't for then like we could obviously Boston could do and you know go win it and you know, maybe they have their consistency, but it reminds me a lot of like a team that is very, very good on paper. They have all of these great talents, but when you go up against the stars of the stars, it does have that little bit of a different feel, right? You are playing against someone who is an alien essentially, who is omnipresent and can't really like be compared to anyone else. And that's like where I think the tracks might fall off for this Boston. They do have the talent, and I think where Yiska put them in like second tier of like winning Owl, I would put them at like maybe the bottom, because I don't know what the rest of the teams look like. I might put them at like the bottom of the tier of like where Shock, like unless we're like putting Shock at like top and then no one else, and then we have like another gap. Or
Here,
I think that
you want like a hot take from me if you want to talk about like maybe a team that's missing from that like title chasing like tier at the very top. I think there's a certain purple team that's going right in my Overwatch Death Note this season. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I don't
know what their roster looks like.
What the rest is,
I don't need like the fact that it's, and again, this is like
but they have the one guy. They have the one guy.
One guy, but then they've got some other, you know, what their other moves, and for, you know, people who, you know, didn't get it, it's the gladiators.
What is Glastro, dude? Like,
yeah, like that to me, not to completely jump ship, but for me, like Glad signing Lastro is like a real odd one. Like that to me signals like, ooh, are we late to the off season? Did we like not hit what we wanted? Like that's not like a winning move. You know what a winning move is? Like getting like Kalios and Smurf and Twilight, you know. Boston to me signals, okay, we want to win. This is a letter of intent. If we don't win, we fucked up, right? And, you know, whatever, you know, Yiska, if they got them on a budget and, like, they're farming socials, great, that's awesome. But, like, competitor in me looks at that team and says, okay, there's no fucking around here. If you're not like a podium team, like, y'all mess something up. The Glads, on the other hand, granted, there's still plenty of time to, like, fill this roster out, but it's like, all we've got so far is people leaving and Lastro. Like,
I mean, I don't.
Great. Grevster is easily somebody that, you know, is an S-class player, is like a hard carry player that will probably be winning Glads most of their games by himself most of the time. But like, even some of the people who like, even in our community, shout outs to the community, join the Discord. We do this shit all the time where we like just like dream up rosters. Like we were thinking like, okay, like if Glads go a couple different ways, like prior to like Dallas announcing some of their initial moves, where it's like, yeah, maybe Glads throws Hanbin the bag. It's like, okay, now that's pretty hot. Like that's going somewhere. Like that's a winning roster. A lot of these like S tier hard carry players are now starting to get picked through. Like now we're getting to the A's and the B's, maybe even to the C's, and like Glads isn't really. Where's the gas? Like Glads doesn't have too much to really buy into now. So it's like
rev up the Bugatti.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Rev up the Bugatti.
It's getting a little
True
scared.
Brexit geezer.
Yeah,
They're looking like they might be exiting the top of NA at the very least, which, you know, you want to talk about Lord Bet. I don't know. Looking pretty.
What the fuck are you saying? Are you saying they're going to be worse than Vancouver, bro?
I'm saying they might be trading games. I think there's a real possibility that could happen.
Kenobi.
I don't think. I mean, what? Okay, so what's the bet is Vancouver finishes higher than 7th.
Yes.
Okay. But like, he's arguing that they are going to get games from Glads. Like
there are how many? Wait, how many teams are there in NA now? It's only 11, right?
We don't know.
Okay, we don't know. So, because Philly's gone, so they're not Oh well, maybe they were gone last.
You mean the Seoul Infernal?
Yeah, the Seoul Infernal. So
Yeah.
I mean, either way, they played in APAC last year anyway, so
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. I don't hate Vancouver at 7 or above. Is it at or above 7th?
It's at and above, baby.
At and above? Yeah, then
this.
yeah. Joe's gonna win that if it's at and above. I think they can easily finish 7th. Like I don't.
Okay, so right.
I don't think they'll trade with Glads. I do not think that, like, regardless of what the Glads, I mean, well, not regardless of, because they could make some mistakes with the rest of the roster construction. But like, you have Kev, who is like we talked about, a hard carry player, and will probably single-handedly beat like the bottom tier teams. Like Vancouver might not be one of those. You know, we'll have to see. I think for bottom of the half of the table, that's not like great, right? I don't think they'll trade. I don't think.
What I hate is Joe is probably going to win this on some fucking bullshit. Like there's only 10 teams in NA.
They'll luck into a meta
instead of 13. Like that's the hope. That's the Joe hope here, right? Because like if you think about that, I think like they're better than NYXL. They're better than Paris. They're better than Paris, NYXL. Is there anyone else?
Those are probably the 2 teams that I'm like very confident are like those are gimmies.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that like 7th is at 7th. If it was above 7th, I'd be like, okay, I think this is a. At 7th though, like absolutely with the team that they already have, where it's I don't know if they're gonna sign anymore, but like
Washington.
You have like a really good roster. You have a really good DPS line. I think Aspire and Sugar Free is pretty good. I think Aspire has been. I don't know how people rate Aspire necessarily in like the community, because I think he's one of like the really good examples of like tier 2 chance being given a shot kind of like out of the blue and really
Right, he was on team. He's been in team jail.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is like when he was on Toronto originally, that signed him for like 30 day.
Yes. And
then he like really performed exponentially well, and I think he's one of the best DPS that we have in like NA. But he is unfortunately, you know, he was on Vancouver. Maybe now Vancouver will be a little bit different this time. You know, having Baroy, having Askoff, I think is gonna make that team probably much better from the top down. So like with this team in particular, Vancouver, like saying they'll get 7th or above is a free win for Joe. I don't know why Yiska took this deal.
Let's go, Punk Mom and Dad.
Are you high? If there's 13 teams in NA like last year, there's no shot. They will be better than.
Okay, what were the 13 teams in NA? Because I think it was. I'm gonna actually look. Hold on.
Right.
Yeah, you pull it up.
The 13 teams in NA were Atlanta, Boston, Florida, Houston, London, Toronto, Shock, Paris, New York, Glads, Washington. So they would have. I think they could beat Washington this year.
Right.
I think that's a gimme.
I think
New York they can probably beat.
The Washingtons, the Vegas,
New York,
Paris,
Vegas.
That's 3. Yeah.
3.
That's 3. And then they could probably take games off of like a London.
That's the bet.
Yeah. Then. But you need to.
They could take games.
You need to. In order to be ahead of the other guys, you need to win more games in the direct interaction against 3 other
But
lineups.
but Toronto went 12-12 last season.
Right.
And you're telling me that like this Boston couldn't go 12-12.
Correct.
They can't go like dead even? Nah.
They can go dead even. They can absolutely go dead even.
Dude, like dead even like against who?
Dude,
there's 3 farmers teams.
Yeah, I mean you can trade. I mean you can trade with London. They might be able to trade with Houston.
We don't even know what Toronto's doing.
Fuck.
No, not with Houston. Sorry, not Houston. I don't.
Not Houston. I think
dude, okay. They're not winning a map against Dallas. They're not winning a map against Shock. They're not winning a map against Houston. They're not winning a map against Rain. Okay? That's 4 teams right there.
Okay, but like, do you think that they can win a map? Like, okay, if we Boston has a propensity to like self-destruct, or if there's like a tilt, they can win a map. Yeah. They can win off of Boston. They can win off of Mayhem. I think it's not like out of the realm. unlikely, yes, but like not out of the realm of possibility. There's too much volatility, I think, in the current bottom half of the table and somewhere in the mid table. Like there's the 5 that are like going to be the top 5.
At the same time,
it's Dallas.
They can also lose a match against DC then.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know if it does the.
Dude, this is so cool.
Does the transitive property work that way, where it's like if you can like beat the good teams, like maybe sometimes like there's the meme about like the teams play down, whatever.
Sure. Yeah, I think there are worlds where like Titans probably like do get upset, like.
Yeah,
that goes without saying. I think any team's possible if like they're just like spaghettiing on the day. Like they're even writing some of the pieces that I wrote this week, like going through some of the match scores and looking at like the shock, like going game 5 against like Justice last season, or I guess this season or last year technically. Like that's not something you would expect when looking at those teams on paper, but things roll out how they roll out, and you almost get upset by the Justice a couple times. Like that's kind of what I'm banking on, for me at least. When I look at the Titans, I look at these like middling teams, and they're not really middling. They should be good, but there are a whole lot of like good teams, right? It's the same kind of logic where we're talking about like DPS on Boston versus like the hard carry players, where it's like, yeah, the rest of the league's pretty good, but somebody's got to finish somewhere. Like this has to shake out somewhere, and I feel like Vancouver Titans give me like London energy, where it's like they'll probably finish.
But there's still London, there's still Florida. These teams still exist there.
They do, yeah, but they also can exist in a capacity to just lose games to Vancouver, and I think they're probably like kind of not like, I don't know. Obviously, the roster finished yet for both teams, sure, but like there's potential that they could just be the same in power scale, right? Like it's. I think Aspire and Sugar Free are going to do a lot of heavy lifting for that team. I would imagine in this scenario. I am a big fan of Punk. I think that he's been woefully mistreated throughout a lot of his career when he was on Boston. Now we'll get I think that Yiska's not like looking too great. It's, like I think 7th and above
insanity.
is like
I still understand it's impossible.
I don't know.
Like if it's 13 teams, it's impossible. Like
what?
If it's, dude,
I don't even know if I'm that confident, Kenobi.
Like
in 7th and above?
Yeah, like I think
if it was above 7th, I wouldn't give it to you. If it was anything above 7th, I think that Vancouver's like peak is 7th, and I think that like it is very likely to me that like with the volatility that I talked about, it's like there's potential that they just like randomly will just beat one of the better teams, and some of the other teams might not be able to do that, right? I think that this is.
You're arguing the logic that I placed the bet on, like to a T. I hear that, but I'm also like, brother, the volatility in this league's a little high, and some of these teams looking pretty good. Like,
I mean, they're looking good, yeah. But I think that there's 5 teams that you can say are going to like absolutely be the top 5, and then there's like
and then there's like a big trading mix, and then there's
I think that like when you look at Vancouver finishing 7th or above, it feels like if it was like 6th or above, I would have taken that. I wouldn't have taken 7th above because it's too much of a risk for me. Like I wouldn't have done that.
Anything higher.
Literally
here, real take. I think it's more likely they get 7 wins than place 7th.
Are we doing another one?
This is really like this all comes down to like how many teams are in NA next year. This is what I'm losing the bet on.
That
would change things. Again, also I like Sugar Free and Aspire, so I think that.
No, among the worst. Like they're not Paris. We don't know what XL is. Everyone else is better.
We will see.
I don't know. I don't know what the roster is like.
I don't know.
Yeah, I need to figure out a little bit of this roster. And
dude, doesn't just Alpha Yi already destroy?
I mean, one man show is not necessarily what I want to.
Yeah, I would be. I mean, Alpha Yi by himself does not beat Sugar Free and Aspire. I can tell you that much for sure.
Yeah, I mean look, if it was still Fitz and and Iris.
That definitely makes
the problem is I don't know what
keep
Washington's
in mind,
roster.
motherfucker, we made that bit when then that still looked like to be the probable thing.
You're goddamn right, I did.
Oh wait, you made that bet when Washington was good,
Yeah.
or was
Yeah.
like at the good?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
The universe speaks to me, Kenobi, and it speaks to me in mysterious ways,
Yeah?
and it's telling me
Is it-
that we should.
Is it through
I mean,
DMs with
I'm
Toronto?
thinking from this. I'm thinking from this perspective. There's like at least 3 teams that like Vancouver can farm wins off of.
I
at least.
agree, 100%. They could trade. It's a gamble. We'll have to see. We have been kind of skirting around the mayhem, and they have done some recent moves. They have added Ch0r0ng, which I think needs no introduction, and they did add Sauna, who I know next to nothing about.
This is also like, keep in mind, Kenobi, like this is coming out of Joe's mind, where like he thinks that like they are going to be 7th, and somehow that doesn't mean like that. For instance, that Toronto Defiant will underperform. They are actually going to finish above Atlanta, so that's not a team that they could theoretically overtake. Right? Like, where the fuck are the wins coming from?
All the previous comments go out the window when there's a bet on the line, so I don't really have too much of a stake in Atlanta versus Toronto much anymore. So
Oh, look at that! Very consistent, dude.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Okay,
my
okay.
god, you're going to be such a good peasant.
listen,
Crazy.
there's a lettuce on the podium and a timer next to him. We'll have to see how long you last. That's
Are
all.
Vancouver gonna outlast the lettuce?
You can finagle that however you want. The real ones will know. Yeah. Any thoughts with Florida though? Ch0r0ng and Sauna. Does that like change any of your opinions? I feel like it seems like good, but
Ch0r0ng good. I think Sauna is a good like. I covered mostly NA, but I did watch EU as well.
mhm.
For contenders, I think Sauna is a very good like 3rd DPS for that team because I think it's checkmate merit right now.
Yeah.
And like Sauna has like Tracer. I think is one of their picks. They do have a Torbjorn as well.
That's such a weird sentence to say.
I think. Sorry. They
Shout out
it's
to
like
people
very
who have a Torbjorn.
specialist, I think, in terms
Yeah.
of like how they want to play. So I think that they are a good like kind of gadget player, like that 3rd DPS, because I don't.
True.
Maybe they do play like over. Maybe there are some metas where it's like if it is like Genji Tracer, maybe you play like checkmate Sauna, where it's like
Sure.
that Genji Tracer that way. I think it's a good signing. I like seeing tier 2 players get signed, get their chance in Overwatch League. Sauna did perform well in contenders, so I think that it's a good, nice little like 3rd wheel to that DPS line that will fill it out and give some depth. Ch0r0ng, I don't think really needs like to be pontificated on that much because we know like how good they are.
Definitely a solid main support. I think like star potential at a role that like has a difficulty of like seeing that a lot of the time, I would say. The more that I think about Florida, at least for me, the more that I hear about Sauna, the more that I look at the coaching staff and what they did last year, the more that I really see this player kind of fitting into some of their more creative kind of plays. We can go back to like week 1 mayhem where they're running, Hog on Gibraltar. Like they're a team. Gunba and Gravy both seem to be very like open-minded when it comes to like hero strategies, and it feels like Sauna kind of fits that. I like what you're saying with like the gadget. Like they can do some fun stuff there.
Hot take. I think someone will win Roll Star this year.
I mean, he should have won it last year, but
Based.
I think he'll win it this year.
I think
he'll
But
win
you
it this
better
year. I think
not,
it's-
Joe, because you need Florida to finish below Titans.
yeah, you can win a Roll Star. I just need you to lose the rest of the regular season. That's all I
very
care.
likely to happen with Ch0r0ng, checkmate, Merit, and someone.
You want a hot take, which I've
What?
definitely bought into from I think people raising some questions about him in the community. Like I'm here for like Merit on John Sojourn. You know what I mean? Like Merit Sojourn's fantastic.
Dude, someone's got. I know exactly who's gotten to you. I know.
I really don't know if
the
like
member of the
Merit's
community.
I
There's
don't
a
know
member
if
of the.
Merit's that guy on the Ashes, the Widows, the Cassie. God forbid there's a Cassidy meta, but like I've been like I remember like catching Merit like 2-3 years ago at this point. It's like wasn't he in China for a little bit, Kenobi?
Oh boy, was he. He was on LG Huya, and then they went to Gauntlet, and they did nothing.
Yeah, they did stinky poo-poo, like, fall on their face, spaghetti in their pockets, 100%. But even then, like, there was, like, he had his moments, but, like, never was a super consistent player. And that kind of transitioned through, like, even talking to Avril, like, has his moments, is kind of flashy, but, like, and because we ended the season on Sojourn, and, like, easily one of the better, like, Sojourn players out here, like, is there some recency bias to, like, the Merit signing that everybody's like, oh my god, best hit scan, like, lip, who, like, I don't know if Merit can be measured up as high as I think people tend to based on one hero. That's all I'm saying.
The thing about it, though, is that, like, it would be foolish to not, like, give or try to attempt to trust Merit at this point. I feel like after the season he had.
Oh, 100%. Like, I'm not saying don't sign him. I'm not saying, like, he's spoiled grapes.
I'm saying I'm trying to justify my Lord bet.
I mean, you know.
Because, like, I mean, he played Sojourn to such a high level.
He did.
That it's, like, it's hard for you to be like, well, it was just Sojourn. Like, yeah, but also, what do you want him to do? Play something else? Like,
not at all. 100%. Like, that's not necessarily his fault that we haven't necessarily seen him dabble or, like, really compare.
It's like Joe Flacco getting, like, when the Ravens won the Super Bowl and Joe Flacco's in the last year's contract, everyone really knows Joe Flacco's not, like, everyone knows Joe Flacco was, like, kind of time, but then he's, like, putting up really good numbers, and then they win the Super Bowl, and you just have to sign him again because he just won you a Super Bowl. Merit has to be signed because of how statistically impressive he was, and, like, how, like, and yes, like, we get to a meta where it's like it's not the greatest of hero for him.
It's
but
just
still
expectations. That's all. I'm saying sign him. I'm saying, you know, this is a good team. But I think people are looking at some of these moves and they're like, oh my God, Florida should be in the title race. And it's like,
I mean, no, I wouldn't go that
far. And no, this isn't like a Plat Chat call out before anybody, like, wants to get the pitchforks out. Like,
no, this is still cope. This is still in the cope.
Yeah,
the merit hate is like, I don't know. You need to stop talking to the community because the Merit hate's getting out of hand.
I think I don't hate the take. I don't hate that, like, people are trying to reel back in Merit because he hit, like, a fat rail and killed 3 people in one shot. Like,
but like, he was statistically, like, stupid on that hero.
Great at that one hero. Everything else, I'm leaving up to, you know, what happens.
What about its Aspire though?
Aspire cooks on Tracer. We've seen that. Aspire, bro, he cooked on Tracer in a Korean team that had him out of the
I already, like, see in your facial muscles, like, the bullshit muscles pulling up. Like, oh, that dude, Sugar-Free probably hasn't touched Overwatch in like 3 years. Like, yeah, he's going to be correct. Sure. That's why he landed on Vancouver and not like
no, Sugar-Free's gonna get stop with the Sugar-Free slander.
Nah, dude, I've seen him stream. He's cracked. He's on the ladder, bro. Trust.
Yeah, he's going to be cracked. That's why he landed on Vancouver, dude.
Just because Glads are going budget this year. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know how they missed that one, but
gotta find out.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, no, I know, like, Atlanta probably didn't have the budget for him. That's why, like, the one, like, Brad's Wonder Kid is not on a title containing roster. What a miss! Rookie of the year.
I mean, when you can shoot for a lip and stalker, I mean, you know, some people.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is you gotta. Play
I'm just saying, I want to keep that energy with the tank lineup.
I also like no hate, but there's a possibility that if they had a little bit more budget, that Sugar-Free is the next DPS alive. That could very well be, but that would not be my cope in order to win this lot bet. So I'm not taking it up.
We need an established title sponsor so that every year we can just make a Lord bet.
Yeah,
true.
We need one of those. So
yeah,
if you're listening.
The Mike's Hard Lemonade Lord bet.
I'm here for it. So we got through Florida. Anything else before? We kind of have to talk about Dallas. Dallas is kind of a big one.
Bro.
You know, retaining some of the big
dude. We were all doom and gloom about this team, bro. And then
it's hard not to be. I don't know how they could retain Hanbin, Edison, Sparkle, and Rush on top of signing Bliss and MCD, who I think definitely are, dare I say, a step down, but I don't think too far down.
My thing is like if you have Sparkle, Hanbin, and Rush, you got something cooking.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
From
Oh,
that
yeah.
point
I
on,
mean-
like it now you have the hard carry, you have the culture guy that's also like has hard carry, like is on equal level than everyone on the Boston, potential carry level. Like if it's a Genji meta, it's still a Sparkle meta. There's a bunch of metas where Sparkle can still stand out. I think if you give Hanbin enough time, he probably can learn every main tank, can pull off a someone performance. I think, in my mind, he is very clearly the only S tier tank in the league. With someone being the next question mark in Smurf. I think Hanbin, with time to learn main tanks, is just very clearly a step above the aforementioned.
Yeah.
Sure.
And he brings the leadership aspect. Sparkle, I get the impression of the content that Dallas released that he's also pretty important for the culture. So that's important, getting that guy. I think Edison definitely deserved it. Big clutch player, arguably could have won MVP, Grand Finals MVP. So big game player in my mind. That's all fine. I'm a little concerned for the backline. That's definitely a downgrade, which...
The
Yeah?
thing about the backline is like it's Rush. I don't. If Rush has said I want these players, then I don't care. I think that Rush is like, I mean MCD obviously like has had some flubs in Overwatch League. I think we can
Right?
call a spade a spade there.
Yeah.
Checkered pat. But Rush wants him.
No.
And to me, what we like the last time I was here, we talked about how Rush views a team like a car, right? And he's like, okay, this piece, this will work in here. I want this in here. And if he's the one making these decisions of like who he wants to sign, because to me that was like the biggest thing, is if Dallas could keep Rush, I think that would be like the biggest thing that they could do. Rush was like the thing that like they needed to keep, because Rush I think is important to how success of Dallas like were to operate. Yes, obviously you had like pretty much the best player at every role, right, at the end of the season. Not besides like proper, but like
Sure.
you could argue that like Edison was one of the best soldiers, Fearless was the best Winston. It wasn't really close. Like Fielder and Ch0r0ng were the best Lucio Kiriko. Then Reaper, just I don't really consider that one to be like a you're not popping off too much on that hero.
Sure.
But like I think that Rush is like the most important part. So, and I think he's earned at this point like the trust of like the fan base to be like, yes, while in the community, yes, while like MCD and Bliss may not look like flashy, it's Rush who's bringing them in, and Rush who's bringing him into that system. And I think that's the most important part, because if there's anyone I would trust to be able to integrate those two players and make them look good, that would be Rush, and make them look like world beaters. Because I think he's taken a lot of the players. Like I don't necessarily remember what was the like talk about Ch0r0ng when he was entering the league? Like was he like touted as being like as good as he was?
My like recollection, it was like Ch0r0ng and then him.
Okay. I straight up didn't remember. So he was like touted as being like very, very
I would say like that was at least what I remember from like our off season like musings with Avril and people in that space, where it was like it's Ch0r0ng, no questions asked, like that's who's getting the bag, and then like you want the Ch0r0ng and some other names in there, but like definitely a step down.
Okay. So yeah, so it is I think a downgrade on paper, obviously, but like again, Rush is the one running the ship.
Yep.
Don't really have a problem with anything he picks, because I think he's at this point he's proven that he deserves the chance to like bring in players who he wants and just like have them be in that system and potentially be like better players than they were when they got here.
I'm gonna hit you with a Redditor Jones, okay? I'm gonna go, oh, but Kenobi, oh, but what did happen with Goyo? Oh, he's so bad.
I mean, you can make mistakes. It's like, I mean, you don't obviously you don't hit everything, right? You don't hit every single signing that you've made. You made one signing that was like a bit off the cuff, but then for every Gurio you get a Ch0r0ng, right? You get someone who's like really good. Gurio, I think, was like a player who, from my recollection, was like pretty okay coming out of Contenders Korea. I don't think anyone thought that they were like world beaters or anything. But like when you get to a point like this where it's like, I mean, I'm gonna take this back to sports a little bit and like soccer, but like when Klopp is like making these signings that are like, lower signings, right? You can take someone like a Trent Alexander-Arnold, who has been in your system for such a long time and make them one of the world-class players. Like Mohamed Salah, for instance, before he came to Liverpool, like was kind of just sitting on the bench in Roma, and then he turned into one of the best players in the world. You can have these players who are coming in as like not the greatest in terms of the quality, but if they have that like little spark that like people can see in them, like Rush or Klopp or any of these really good managers or coaches know that they can have something in that player, I trust them, especially if they're good coaches, which
Right.
Rush is. And he's one, like, probably potentially at this point, the best coach that besides Krusty. I think everyone, Reddit's going to get mad at me for saying that Rush is better than Krusty, but whatever. I think that they're 1A, 1B at this point, and then put Ray at second.
Moon might have a word with you.
Moon too. Moon and Ray can be 2A.
That's fair. I think that's more than fair. Yiska, are you concerned about Dallas? Do you want a little bit more, or are we putting them back in title? Do you think they can defend? Maybe is a better question.
I mean, they're not one of those in those situations where they're now the favorite to defend. Just based on, like, if they still had Phil Ch0r0ng, I might think differently.
Sure.
Even then, I think they need a third DPS that has sick firepower. They would have needed someone on top of Sparkle and Edison. Someone like...
Here, I'll throw a name at you, and I don't know. Maybe, hold on, I need to double check before I say. Is there a world where like they nab like a top dragon, based on like rush system, being defending champions, maybe some other things? Is there a world where they can get a big rookie?
Does that fit in the hero pool?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you what top dragon plays. Liquipedia
Top Dragon's like flex.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, you can get like Probe. I think would be like the
like a Spectra maybe.
Spectra is also flex. He wouldn't.
Oh.
I mean, I don't hate getting him if Edison's going to be playing all the hit scan, but like, I think Spectra should find a team, but like Probe is an option because I think Probe was the hit scan on that team, like the O2 team, right? I think that Yiska's right that they do need like a third deep. They need to fill out the roster. I think that for me to like say that they would be in title contention, because again, we have to remember that it's Rush, it's Hanbin, right. It's Sparkle. That's kind of the base of the cake, and now you just need to add the frosting and stuff, and then get yourself a title.
Would agree. And I think this is kind of like, at least for me, this is another one of those like, it's like Spark, but in reverse, where it's like, I trust Hanbin to kind of like handle the tanks, where it's like, okay, I know Sparkle can be pretty serviceable on a lot of these picks, but like, if we're going to defend the title, we probably need to fill that out. Edison, looked fantastic by the end of the season. Supports are probably going to be fine. I've been high on Bliss for a hot minute, like since I think Gauntlet was like when I was like, really big in that kit up. And I think MCD definitely has some gas in the tank. So I would agree. I think they need probably a third DPS, but I don't think they need too much more to go back. And I think this is going to be a weird power ranking season where we don't just auto put in like the defending champions at the top, because I don't think you can right now, unless they like really come out with some hitters like the foreseeable future. It's hard to not just
put Vancouver at 7th already.
I mean, that's a gimme, but we'll see. All right, anything else for the fuel before we wrap up with not Philadelphia?
Get Profit.
I mean,
that would be so sick.
Now,
oh my god,
that would be a hitter. That would make me want to put them first.
Yeah.
Would you put them ahead of Vancouver?
You're goddamn right, I would.
God damn it.
Uh-oh.
We're slipping. I was kind of hoping. I'm gonna be completely real. I was hoping Dallas was gonna be kind of poop when I made that bet. So my plan's already kind of in shambles at the moment. So We'll see. I'm very open to being a peasant. We'll be 1-for-1 in lore bets at that point, but I'm going for the repeat. Sure. Let's end 278 on not Philadelphia. The Fusion are no more. We have the Seoul Infernal I know Yiska has big, strong opinions on graphics and names, but we'll get to him because, the Dallas Fuel apparently are number one on his hit list of terrible names and branding. But Kenobi, any thoughts here? Is this?
I like it.
Any thoughts on the move as well? Obviously,
I mean, it makes sense if they're gonna. I mean, after last year, it doesn't. If they're gonna keep playing in Korea, T1's a Korean org. Like, you might as well just, put pen to paper, and move them over there. I think that I don't. The logo is a little bit too close to the Vancouver logo for me, just a smidge. Apparently, though, it's
What do you mean close?
Plains logo? Like they're similar in like the
Yeah. There's been memes.
They're a little bit similar.
Yeah, I kind of see it.
I do think it's a cool because I think the reason that they picked it is because it's like the nickname of the like the Korean soccer fans. I think like I don't know the exact name, but I think that's kind of where the inspiration is from for the logo and for the color scheme, which I think is cool. But overall, like I think it's gonna be very hard for me to call them not call them Philly anymore. Yeah. No, I mean because I mean we've done LA Gladiators and LA Valley. We can do Seoul Infernal and Seoul Dynasty.
Right.
Fine. I mean, granted, we've had a little bit more time with the other two, but eventually we'll be. But yeah, I like the move. I think that getting another Korean team is good. I think Overwatch is still doing pretty well in Korea, so give more of that place some more teams to another team or rather to support. So I think it's I like the move. I do, unfortunately for the Philadelphia fans that were there who liked it because it was a Philadelphia team, kind of sucks in their own right. It feels like we're getting that twice with the Paris fans and then also the Philadelphia fans. No more peas.
I think once Overwatch kind of takes its vitamins, regains a little bit of its health.
Flintstones gummies.
I think once once they get a couple Flintstone gummies in them, I think they'll. I think Paris is definitely something that we're gonna want to like rake back in. We're gonna want something there. What that looks like and when that happens is difficult to say, but Yiska, where does the Seoul Infernal rank on your shit list? Is this a good branding or a bad branding?
Apathy, like it's okay.
Apathy. That's almost worse.
Yeah, but only in Zuma culture. You know how you guys call stuff that's bad mid, because like stuff that's bad is still content for you, and stuff that's great is content. But whatever is average, you can't be average. That's the cuss word. So but I'm not from that world. I just say it's mid, and then it's okay, right? It's decent. I think the colors are a little bit close in terms of the gold. Did you really have to go so close to the gold of the Seoul? That's a little weird.
I like we have a lot of red and black teams though. I realized that.
Yeah, that's another thing.
These skins are probably gonna look so sick though in like the.
Maybe.
Hopefully, yeah. I think the other thing is like a lot of people said, well, why not Busan? Well, Seoul is a big ass city. It's like, I don't know, the wider commercial area of Seoul is, I believe, like, I don't know, 30 million people or something. Might be too many, but like, also bottom line is, I think their offices, like the Genji office and the T1 office, at least in last time I heard about it, is like 2 minutes apart. Walk. So like this is something where they can build on a regional rivalry. And theoretically speaking, that could grow the pie, and both of them gain more from the regional rivalry than they lose, based on infringing on the
do homestand or do like what Dallas and Houston do. Like,
right.
What was that?
Right.
Yeah, I think it's only like a given that they're probably going to have like they're going to try to sell this regional rivalry, which I think is probably going to like be a. I don't know if it's necessarily as good as like Leaving Well Enough Alone, but I think that like having tangible storylines for people to kind of like latch on to, where there is kind of a rivalry, where there is kind of like a T1, my mind at least goes back to like SKT, like KT, you know, you have these like regional domestic rivalries that you want to play out. And I think APAC is kind of shaking out to be a little messy, let's say, when it comes to some of the narratives. So I think this is like just a gimme that you're gonna, you know, see hammered into the wall, which isn't a bad thing. I think it definitely has room to like grow into like being something that we can, you know, kind of be an El Clasico. Could be,
Battle
yeah.
for Seoul.
I'm here. Like, we need more of that. We need more of those like genuine regional domestic rivalries where we have like the Battle for Texas. We have, I think one that's kind of not played up enough is like the Canadian teams, where it's like it's just been Toronto and Vancouver's never really been there. We'll see what happens this year. I don't know. But I need Seoul Infernal to make some moves. I want to be more excited about this team. I want to be excited about the rebrand, but I can't be super excited when all you got is M3 and Zest. So hopefully,
I mean, that's pretty good though. It's a good start.
I mean, it's not bad, but
good start
I need
to get those two.
It is a good start, but again, if we're talking about who's in the Overwatch Death Note, I'm gonna need you to start hitting some names. I'm gonna need some names to be starting cross off this list because it's running dry. If we want to consider them like, oh, they're going neck and neck with Seoul, and you've got Spark.
Yeah,
God
Spark's
knows what else happens. It's like,
what
happens with
getting?
Yikes.
Charge, you know, stays mostly the same.
Okay,
like,
I had a question for if Spark signs the God Chinese team, like the super team.
Yeah.
Do they go into the San Francisco shock tier of like this is the favorite to win?
No, and I'll tell you why. I think there's something real about being in the weaker region that doesn't prepare you as well. I think pound for pound, Shock's probably still a little better, but I still think like environment is a big deal. That they cannot, like, if they were to reliably just practice against the best every week, then okay, different. It's just very thin theoretically. Like, even if you think of the best case scenario from this point on, there's basically no shot that APAC is the better region this year.
I would agree.
It's getting hard to kind of think of it that way. I think they'll have good teams. Like, if Spark does become like the God Chinese team, like I think they'll be.
I think they should come to an NA so they can be over Vancouver as well.
Wouldn't that be something, right?
Let's move everyone to NA, and then Vancouver in no way get 7th.
If that's the way the monkey paw has to curl to get me to see Ray play on LAN, I'm okay with that. Fine, fuck it. I'll take the L.
We saw him play on LAN.
We saw him play in the World Cup.
That counts.
That does not count.
Okay.
Doesn't
whatever.
Count. You headcanon whatever you want. I could give two shits about the World Cup.
Okay.
They didn't play Shy on flex support, and I'll be salty to the day I die.
Dude, don't hate on Kyo like that. Come on, that's my 4-time Contenders China champion right there.
Real.
Not the same. So Infernal needs to make some moves, or we're really getting concerned out here because I really don't know. Like, there's obviously names that could be signed to like these teams of like, you know, Charge.
There's still Korean contenders, especially with the new age thing. That's like gonna change.
There's still some people out there. There's still Kellen is unsigned. 2U is unsigned.
2U Probe is still unsigned.
Probe is still
Is Alien?
Top Dragon.
Spectra.
I'll say this. I think the Seoul Infernal. I'm trying to be very mindful in saying the Seoul.
Who's gonna take a shot on Naste, bro? Who's doing it?
Gosh. I think that they're like I think they should feel blessed that like Seoul is like admittedly going kind of budget. Because if they weren't, I don't know if. I hope Philly keeps the old Comcast energy in APAC, because again, some of those big hitter names are notably missing and already on teams where it's like the Lips, the Stalkers. Yeah, Profit's out there in the wind, but I don't know. So we will see. But that said, any other last points before we wrap this up? Any other topics?
Someone just like maybe buy Junbin away from Shock if they're targeting. Like, just don't let.
Do you think you can even like,
dude? Like,
what
just
do you
don't
have
let
to
them
give?
assemble Exodia. Just don't.
the Exodia? I mean, they already have it, kind of. Like,
Yeah.
we're at 4 pieces right now. We just need the left arm of the forbidden one, and it's over.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah, it's a problem. It
is. Now, okay, I'll throw this as like a fun wild card question before we get out of here. Like, Krusty is notably, fond of the pipe, right? What's the bet he goes on? What's the weird like player that he signs? Just to what's the project player that he grabs this year that like doesn't see the light of day?
Okay, I'm cooking. I'm cooking.
Yeah, cook.
I'm thinking they're going to be an NA Contenders player.
Yeah.
Oh no. Oh.
Is it Vision? Do you think he just signs Vision and then just like...
Oh, I was going to go even deeper. I was going to be like, you know what? We have a history of signing underage talent. Why don't we just like get dibs on Ch0r0ng?
Oh, like this early and just say in 2 years we're going to sign...
Yeah, just sign him to a 2-year contract. Hit him with a 2-year, let him play in collegiate. I don't know if that's
loan him to Maryville for 2 years. That's
why not?
Very funny.
Bring Tayo back.
Leave him alone. He's like a influencer now in Japan, right? He's doing well for himself.
Who could it be? I'm trying to like find good names. NA Contenders B-sides. Let's see.
Because if Krusty's like eye test goes on anything, and Yiska can attest to this because Reddit fucking took him and gave him a good poking about this, like Krusty's got some odd takes.
He's gonna sign Iced as assistant general manager.
Krusty is a savant in some of these decisions where it's like,
I mean, I didn't. To be fair to him, I think the Kalush signing was actually really good. I thought.
I mean, yeah.
Given the situation,
for the situation,
yeah.
For the situation they were in, I think they really lucked out. Not like they lucked out, but I think getting Kalush, I think, was really good for them.
Like,
I would agree.
That's easily forgotten. It's like it's actually really impressive that they could have the season that they had after losing Super this late into off season. Like, I think their off season just goes completely differently. We probably have an S tier or A tier main tank player lined up if Super knows beforehand that he doesn't have it in him anymore. Yeah. Fair enough, but yeah, I think that's then the third title probably for Shock.
I'd say so, yeah. More than likely.
Have you found your name yet, Yiska?
I don't know. I almost feel like Gunba just killed the dream with signing Sauna, just
random EU player. Yeah, I feel like that would be kind of maybe where I'd lean, maybe like an EU prospect that's just kind of like hoping and waiting. But there again, like the whole team's just careening. You want like a random Shockwave on your team. Just seems difficult to manage.
No, I had an interview with Shockwave, and unfortunately, it's not Shockwave. So,
oh shit, leaks, juice win.
There it is, Reddit. Slurp it up.
No, that's being an EU player is not fun this year. I'll tell you that much.
I bet.
Ain't nobody want to pay for visas.
Hell no. And then being educated in a region that just is a void pit of general play and no touching points with other regions where you can improve.
True.
Yeah, no.
I played EU ranked a couple of days ago, and it's just pharmacy play. Every game, every single game, I got pharmacy.
Dude,
it's crazy. 6 games in a row. Just never see it in NA.
I feel like people don't when I queue with people from Discord that are NA. and then we are overwhelming EU. They always make like the subtle like cultural like missteps that just cost you games. Like I remember one Venus was like, a dude picks Junker Queen. We lose the first fight, and then Venus goes like, please switch Junker Queen. You don't understand the EU mentality. You just locked that guy. Like if he was going to switch, he now is locked into that for the rest of the map.
Yeah. Just to spite.
And probably the next map as well. Like match as well. Like you just stun locked that kid into playing.
You ruined somebody else's video game.
Yeah, no, that's not. The EU ranked experience is a little different, I feel like. Also, nobody talks. And if they talk, it's probably like you don't want them to talk.
Yeah, usually the case on video games, but
true.
We digress. 278. Kenobi, where can people find you? What you been up to? What's the project?
Kenobi Cast. I'm mostly just on Twitter. I do have an Instagram, but I don't use it at all. So just at Kenobi Cast on Twitter. I recently wrote another story piece on Redbirds and their double of the collegiate homecoming and their contenders run it back win. Probably gonna write something. Just need to find out what it is going to be next. But I've been doing a lot more of that. Hopefully Contenders comes back soon. Hopefully I'm a part of it because I miss casting. But yeah, everything you can find me at Kenobi Casts, and thank you for having me again.
Thank you for coming on. Couldn't have Ray come back and not have you come on and gush with me. Yes. Yiska, what do you got cooking?
Yeah, we're ramping up interviews a little bit. I'm committing to 2 to 3. The current release schedule looks like Thursday, first part of GM panel. That one was already pretty good. I would say the second part is spicier.
Sure.
Then Friday, Shockwave interview, talking about his off-season experience, the experience on Vancouver, talking about what it's like to play EU, what it's like to be coached by someone like 9K, in contrast to like what happened in Vancouver. You can imagine that turned out to be pretty spicy, as implied. And then once again, like on Monday, we're then releasing the second part where we really talk through the economics of the league and like what can be done and what would feel good and give us hope about the future of the Overwatch League. We went pretty hard there, or the general managers went pretty hard there. And then, I mean, if those panels are received well, I'm looking forward to doing more of those and then expanding. Like maybe like the general manager stuff is pretty easygoing because everyone is articulate and it hosts itself. I'm also looking forward to like maybe doing casters or maybe doing players, coaches, and then on specific topics. Just keep that going. Assemble like experts around a topic, have them discuss the merits of particular points, and carry that on to the future while still doing, the player interviews and whatnot. We got some off season to go, guys. Like we need to fill it a little bit. There's not that many more roster announcements, so that's what we're contributing. How about
you say that there's not too many more roster announcements, but we still got plenty of the league.
APEC, yeah.
Yeah, we gotta start getting them out.
Which I'm sure we will. We will.
I mean, not if your Sparks wait until the end of February.
I mean, hopefully there's a rollout or something. Hopefully it's not just a graphic, but we'll see. Anything else for you, Yiska?
No. What about you, Joe?
I mean, I'm coming back.
Where can we find you?
Yeah, all the places. My name
at Volamel on Twitter.
Yep, that's the one and only. Doing some stuff, writing some things, still working on that old project. I'm gonna try to hit the ground with some interviews myself. I have some people that I'd like to talk to. Depends on if they want to talk to me. So yeah, we'll see. Nothing completely in the works just yet, but stay tuned. Some flowery bullshit will likely be hitting, hopefully, your eyes in the near future. That's gonna be episode 278. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you, Kenobi, for coming in and talking about the Spark and Ray and all the stuff. And we will see you next week with hopefully another decent episode. I'd say a good episode of Tactical Crouch. So take care.
Peace.